Today's June 8th. My name is Jim Sexton. I'm the Human Resource Director. And we're here today with the PBA, Coastal Florida PBA, to talk about successor agreement. We're in the midst of a 2-year deal now that expires on September 30th of 2021. And today is the first session in attempts to negotiate a successor agreement. And with that, we're going to ask Mr. Mike Scudero, who's the business agent, to start us off here.
Okay, thank you, and appreciate the opportunity to meet and get a jump start on this. I know it's been a transitional year for the city with the new city manager and the chief, and it's hard to kind of start all that under a previous manager, a previous chief, and accomplish a lot. So
I meant to mention that there's a, and I see it's going around, but there's a sign-in sheet going around just for the bargaining team. Like if you're just as an observer, you don't have to put on it. And if you would you introduce everybody?
Yeah,
Some new faces.
we do. We have
Start with the guy in the back. I don't remember that.
yeah, Greg Forehand's our general counsel is with us, and we are fortunate to have all of our elected reps and our vice president with us. Ryan Forrest is our secretary treasurer on our executive board. Sean Schulenberg, Greg Florio, Sterling Martin, and Joe Rosas are all reps with us.
Great.
For this new contract session.
Have you sent me a list of the official bargaining agents in a minute? Seems like it's
probably everyone except for these two gents here. They're our two newest.
Okay.
And yeah, I'll make sure we get
Just send me something, like, so we have it.
No, I'm excited that we can get started and get the ball rolling here. And I've put together, as I've done in years past for you, Jim, a bullet point summary in contract article order, the things that we've gathered and solicited from membership over the last several months. These represent the ideas that have been brought forward in membership meetings, one-on-one conversations.
Okay.
And if you want, I'll just kind of work down the list. You can interrupt at any time, fire away with questions.
Let's do it.
In Article 15.2, it's started to become the reality, I think, for every law enforcement officer. To do this job without a cell phone is practically impossible. Even for the ones that don't currently get phone stipends, supervisors, and detectives. These guys that are on the road will tell you here too, that they can't, there's not a shift that goes by that they're not needed to use their cell phone. It's just not practical otherwise. So given that supervisors and detectives receive phone stipends, we think it's come time for patrol officers, really for everyone sworn, to also receive a phone stipend from the city. So that's pretty simple.
Dollar figure in mind?
Well, it's a fixed amount, Captain. I think I want to say it's $45 a month.
I think it's 1038.
Is that what it is?
1038 a week or something. I think that's typically.
We're not even looking to increase that.
Yeah,
we just want that to apply to everybody in the bargaining. It's the goal.
Right now, I think all sergeants get it. I could be wrong about that, but I think all sergeants get it, and then certain specialty units like CST and
Detectives.
detectives get it for sure. So we just have to figure out how many additional people that is.
And like I said, if this were a different era where it wasn't as applicable, but I think again the three patrol officers here can tell you every shift they can't not use their cell phone to talk to a supervisor, to talk to a witness, or as part of their job every day.
Without officially going in on the radio.
Well, but there's times they'll tell you where the radio isn't an appropriate place to have a conversation. It's like, hey, call me. So they're out there.
Use it for the Axon phones, Axon capture.
You can't log into your computer now because we have to use it for security purposes to do what we have. They send a push text or call.
Yeah.
So everything is done on the phone.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. Okay.
18.2, I don't know if this is the best place to put that or if it's 20.5, but I found two sections that could apply. What we would like is to see a mechanism where if an officer has a detail that they've signed up for, and then subsequent to that, they get a subpoena and have to go to court, they have to go give a deposition, whatever the case may be, where they're legally now obligated to do that they don't lose that detail that they've signed up for. And I don't know that it's a long-standing problem, but it has become one recently as court has gone to Zoom. And you have now where sometimes 15-minute depositions, 15-minute appearance in traffic court. And if an officer's on an 8-hour detail and has to give up $400 worth of a detail potentially to do 15 minutes in court, there's just something not fair about that. And I know life's not always fair. What I'm asking is, can we find a way to see that that is covered by that day shift's supervision somehow? Because these are all courts obviously during the day, it's not applicable to night shift, but if you've got an officer on a detail and they get a notice to appear, that they then immediately get with that, whatever rotation that falls on, that day shift supervisor and say, hey, I've got a detail at the college that day, and they just gave me the subpoena, and then for the time that they're in court or on Zoom, as the case may be, that it get covered by patrol through the chain of command.
So rather than basically canceling or finding somebody to work the entire detail for what could be a 20-minute absence.
Right.
Find a way that either someone on shift, well, I guess it would be someone on shift, somebody's not gonna come in for 20 minutes to cover a detail.
Right, the practical answer on this is, let's say it's the methadone clinic, which is one officer, actually, right? It's not, So, I'm working the methadone clinic detail, and I've got a subpoena. The day shift sergeant or lieutenant, however you see fit, appoints someone while I'm in that detail, say from 10 a.m. or in court from say 10 a.m. to 10:30. That half hour, they send someone over to cover the detail. And then as soon as I'm done, I log off of Zoom and I come back to the detail. Because we're hearing that Zoom is here to stay for court. That for some of these smaller things that these ladies and gents are obligated to appear for, that this is likely to stick around. It's not just going to get over. All right. Moving along, 19.2. Right now you have a 10-year requirement to get promoted, 5 years with a degree. In talking with the chief about this, and even the previous chief to some level, but the current chief, we've sort of agreed that that's a pretty high hurdle, and it prevents what can be some good candidates from testing for sergeant. And 10 years, I think, is a little high. If you looked around, you'd find in this area that 10-year bar to become a sergeant is probably a little high. We think 7 might be a more fair number, and you could then give bonus points for a degree so that you don't have just people getting promoted in 5 years. 21.
So in other words, don't have the two separate.
Right,
Would we
just go
still
to
have
7
the
years.
5 and a degree?
Well, my proposal,
Or 7.
after some conversations with the chief, was just stick it with 7 so it's consistent, and then award bonus points for a degree. So that someone who has worked hard, gone through, gotten a 2-year, 4-year degree, still has the opportunity to be rewarded for that in the promotion process.
It's interesting, I see what you're trying to get at, you're trying to reduce the 10 without degree down to the 7, because we might get, good candidates that haven't been here 10, but have been here 7, but am I also not losing viable candidates that have been here 5 but have a degree?
We're not hell-bent on one way or the other there, Jim. I mean,
Okay.
I'm happy to work with you. I think it's a fair discussion, and
Got it.
something that, Captain and some of the folks in the PD may have valid opinions on and want to discuss.
Okay.
We're just kind of putting it out there for discussion.
Understood that.
21.3, you have on-call THIs, $60 a week for what's almost certain to get you called out too when you're on call because of the volume of crashes in the city. We think it's probably time to bump that up a bit. It's been $60 as far as anyone can remember, as far back as anyone can remember. It seems like $100 a week would be a modest and fair increase.
So,
And it might attract more people to participate too, I think.
Yeah, it's a possibility. We run anywhere between 15 and 30 traffic fatalities, and that doesn't include serious bodily injuries that we get called out to in the middle of the night, middle hours, multiple times a week sometimes.
is it a matter of not having enough certified to do it?
Well, there's people certified, but they're not signed up to be on call.
There's a lot of people that have left before that.
Because it seems like I have, and I was just looking to see if I can get my hands on it pretty quickly, but it's, we have a designated number and then a couple of alternates, it seems like the contract is. But what I'm hearing you just say is that it's not because we're limited here, there's actually people who would do it, but because it's only $60 a week to be the on-call person, they're not signing up. Is that what I'm hearing?
And I don't know that I don't know that the extra $40 alone is going to solve that. I'm just thinking of a modest increase that would be consistent with the responsibility nurse. You've got one official full-time investigator in that role, and it's my understanding she gets worked to the grind on that. And having some other folks participating in this would probably go a long way.
Where article did you have that in?
21.3 is where the $60 a week is.
I just can't remember off the top of my head if that's limited by a number or not. It might be. I think it might be people assigned to, yeah, 2 are assigned. So traffic homicide investigators, 2 who are assigned, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, as on-call staff shall receive this $60. Alternates will be eligible to receive 60 for the weeks they are assigned.
Well, that's privacy and process. That's the next section. That's a different.
Usually there's two THIs on per week. One would be, is Ashley, usually there's a secondary. And they both get the, so.
And are you looking to increase the number as well, or?
I mean, I don't know that
They would
that's-
rotate that, right? I mean,
Right. Usually it's rotated. Ashley, right now, the full-time THI is, she pretty much does it. Out of 52 weeks, she probably does 49.
And part of this did come from a discussion with the motor sergeant about this, who I don't think was even fully aware that it was specifically called for in the contract. Because we looked at doing this, I would say about a year, maybe 2 years ago originally, and the chief at the time was willing to look at it, and then we saw it was in the contract. So sometime within the last 2 years, Jim, because this would have come up in the last contract, had it been prior to that. So sometime since we agreed to the last contract is when we discovered that, hey, this number has been there a long, as far back as anyone can remember.
all right, I understand.
Okay. Next item is in that same Article 21, the city participates in the county's emergency response team, and I know there are a number of officers who are on that team. I don't know the exact number offhand, but there's, again, a lot of work with that. They have to jump at a moment's notice, and similar to some of the other specialty assignments we have in the department, we feel that it's proper that they be compensated for that, for their participation in that team. And I think.
So the fact that it's the on-call status,
Right.
not the fact that they get called to the duty of doing it, but as they are available for the ERT, you're saying some type of stipend for the weeks they're on that call, or they always, once you're assigned to it?
Once you're assigned to it,
always-
you're always on, yeah, it's
And that's
sort of like
that
a
hurricane, I don't know, mass shootings, like,
Has a location, so there's a location.
One of the members that brought it up to me, I know, is not on SWAT, he is not on
any of the special units.
hostage negotiation.
However, is on.
He is on this and doesn't get anything for it. We were just thinking the same $20 a week.
What's the extent of what this means to the officer? What is being on the ERT
Well,
mean?
it's certainly a source of pride. It's a way to.
I mean, in time, is it extra
Oh, extra
training?
time, yeah.
It's a lot of.
I have to be
A lot of training.
available, like literally available, like an on-call, truly an on-call? Or is it, I'm on the ERT and they've been, a hurricane's coming, I know I might get activated if there's, now, it could be a moment's notice, like maybe an active shooter situation, would that call out the ERT?
A riot,
This
yeah,
is-
it's
This is more crowd
Yeah.
control, riots, not necessarily, active, active.
Although the things you're, I think it very well could be utilized in some of the, we know there's a hurricane, force
They
five
went
about
out
to
to,
hit.
the Panhandle,
They
for
got
the last big.
So the Panama City one,
Yeah,
the
there's-
disaster after,
And they
that
do-
was the ERT, that was the official ERT, if you will?
Yes. And, if you want to talk about how many, I don't know how many exactly are on that from.
That was my next question. So,
And some of those, I don't know how many of them are SWAT. I know the one that reached out to me was not.
I don't think any.
None of them are on
You
SWAT?
can't- You can't do both. I don't think you can do both.
Well, then that answers that. And again, we're just looking for the same, $20 a week that those other on-call.
I can get the exact numbers of how many.
you're thinking around 8 though,
I
right?
think it's 8, I'll get a hold of them.
All right.
Okay. 26.1, I know you've heard me talk about this
Hey,
before.
come on, free health insurance for everyone, come on.
We just think that given the climate out there, given how so many other agencies treat this, that no cop should have to pay for their health insurance. And I understand the tradition in the city has always been to treat all employees the same in terms of what they pay for health insurance, be it single payer, family coverage. Police officers, and I'm sure the firefighters would make the same argument, are a different breed. Given the nature of the risk that they take, people they come in contact with on a daily basis, we just think that it's probably long past time for the city to recognize the risks they undertake every day in their job, and at least give them the dignity of not having to pay for their health insurance, for their single payer.
So that's, all right, so I understand. Basically, right now, I think if you're on the triple option, single coverage, it's like $18.23 a week. Is that the number we're talking about? We're not talking about the 1,200, or like if you're on family coverage where you got $133 a week.
Although
We're
we
not
love
talking-
that,
Well,
there
I hear
are
you.
places that
But
do.
specifically, what you're talking about
Is the employee
remove
portion.
the 1823, whatever the single employee portion is,
Right.
and then carry that to employee plus one, whether it's employee plus child, employee plus spouse, employee family. Just remove the $18 or whatever the weekly
Cost.
that they pay for a single pay. So basically, officer on our plan solely as themselves, they would have 0 premium. But as soon as they added employee plus spouse, or employee plus child, or family,
Then they pay.
then they would pay that premium less the 18. Or like, I don't even know how that's rolled in, I'd have to ask my benefits person, like if, it's 18 for the single, and then it goes to, I don't know, 66 or 73 or whatever for employee plus one. Like, I don't know if that's really the 1823 plus 50, like, I don't know how that number gets derived. But what I'm hearing you say though, at this point, is employee single, 0 premium, whatever employee plus one, employee plus spouse, and family is, that's what it is.
Is that if you wanted to pay for family in some capacity, there are places that do that too, but
Well, we do pay, we do. I mean, the employee's not paying near the entire cost.
What, just curious.
Yeah.
What's the employer contribution for the city right now?
So for single coverage, it's like 800 and some change, so if you're paying $18 out of 50, we're paying 700 plus of it a
Okay.
month
So-
for the single coverage.
Right, and because in the state of Florida, it's 25% minimum employer contribution for medical, is that correct?
No.
It's a percentage though, right?
No. No, we literally don't have to pay a nickel of health insurance. There's no requirement that an employer in Florida has to pay for a portion of your health insurance. We're not saying that's what we're doing. What I'm saying is, we'll certainly look at that proposal for the single coverage. But to answer the question, and I don't know the percentage off my head, I know we have filled out surveys, it seems like we filled out surveys for other jurisdictions, they ask for the percentage that the city pays. I don't know that exact percentage off the top of my head, all I can tell you is that I know, I think the city manager who just retired, it's on top of my head, it's like $1,200 a month for employee plus spouse. And that's not like his rate, that's the family rate, or the employee plus one spouse rate. If the employee's paying $70 a week, whatever that is, $280, we're paying the other grand. So it's, the city already picks up a significant cost of the health insurance. There's no debating that, but I clearly understand the proposal is basically if I'm a single coverage employee, I should have the insurance. The city should pick up the single coverage premium, that $18.23 a week or whatever that is.
Correct. All right, now we'll move to the big one. Try not to fall out of your chair.
Come
I know
on.
there are years
Okay.
where people in my position, no matter what the union, would come in and put together a big wage proposal and you'd laugh it out of the room and say, that's just not reasonable. I like to think we've always been fair about not coming in with an unreasonable number. So when you see our proposal for a 3-year contract with 10% each year for across the board wages, I think that speaks to the times we're in. And the minimum wage increase that's coming, $1 an hour every year. And I think the city has already gone to 15 an hour for all full-time employees, right?
31.2. We call it 31.2 annually instead of
Right,
15.
15 now, right. When you add that to the climate that police officers all over the country are in, it's a thankless job that's getting more thankless by the day. Harder and harder to recruit, to retain. And another long-time officer in this department put in his notice this week. And it's just, you're not even just losing them to other agencies anymore. I mean, that happens too.
You're losing them to the field.
You're
right?
losing to
Nobody
other
wants to be a police
careers,
officer.
yeah.
No, I hear that.
So,
Especially if they're vested in the pension, it's like, why am I sticking around here?
They're looking at even before vesting, you know?
well, that is,
Yeah.
everyone's got different reasons for this.